Well, greetings, muchachos. It's Bushcraft Blitz here. Whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, whoever you're doing it to, hope you're doing it with a little bit of savoir-faire. Look at the cut of the jib on this thing. The M103, the Tier 9 American heavy tank. It's got a massive turret. It's got a head on it like a racing tadpole. But I tell you what, it's a very solid turret with some very solid armor numbers. And it's a great all-round tank. The Americans are renowned for their versatility in both their mediums and their heavy tanks. And this is certainly no exception. The E5 and the 103, the 9 and 10 versions of the American heavies personify that versatility and that flexibility. Now, before we go any further, if you haven't heard, I am running Patreon. So if you want to sponsor the channel and help out, jump over to the Patreon channel at the moment. I think Marty P and Simon Turnbull are the only blokes who've chucked $1 up there or $5 or whatever the case may be. But they're paying for this video, boys. So hats off to them. Shout the bar. The Facebook page has been going onwards and upwards. We've been posting some stuff up there. In fact, I posted up a video of Airlie and myself when I was in the 183. Now, the Death Star video will be coming up very soon. I'm going to give that tank a flogging. I'm just going to give you a little pre-season nudge. Don't buy the thing if you're thinking about it. Stop at the tortoise. Now, the M103, why is it so lovely? Well, for starters, it's got really solid gun handling for a heavy tank. Now, most heavy tanks, your gun is going to be a bit of an issue. It's the Russian heavies are renowned for having big, long aim times, very poor dispersion numbers, and basically very poor gun depression. And you've got to take gun depression into your gun handling stats. Now, the 103 has good gun depression. It's got a good turret. It's got a good rate of fire, 5.36 rounds per minute for a heavy. Good solid 400 alpha, 0.37 dispersion isn't incredible, but that 2.3 second aim time really helps. Now, I want to talk a little bit about that relationship. Aim time coupled with dispersion is your issue. If you've got a high aim time and a low dispersion, they cover for each other a little bit. If you've got a big dispersion and a big aim time, your gun handling is horrific. And if you have good gun depression, meaning you can take good shots and have a good solid gun platform with a solid armor profile and a very quick aim time, you can actually let your reticle go quite small very quickly, so you're getting that full 0.37 dispersion. Whereas if you have very poor gun depression, you're sliding out and you've got to take quick shots with a high aim time, your reticle is going to be quite large when you fire the gun. So the gun handling on this tank is excellent. And it's a feature of most of the American tanks at 8, 9 and 10, in the heavy line at least. What else makes this tank lovely to drive is the mobility. The traverse speed of 28 degrees per second and 20 degrees of turret traverse mean that while you won't be able to completely stay in front of all COD tanks, Circle of Death tanks like mediums, you can certainly give them trouble. And your frontal armor is very trollish. It's rounded. It's almost spherical. It's a very deep bottom on this tank. It's like a bowl, a dish or something, and it meets at a very sharp point in the middle. And what that means is that when you're moving and jiggling and wiggling around, you've got big tracks, very funny frontal armor, you can get a lot of bounces, and you can do a lot of sneaky trollish bounces that you don't expect to get. Now, the tank itself will get up to 34 kilometers an hour, and it will get there fairly quickly. It's got very solid soft stats, particularly good for a heavy tank. It leaves the Russians, and for the most part, all the other Tier 9 heavy tanks for dead in terms of mobility. What I'm saying there is it can get up to its top speed, which is not a terribly large amount, 34 kilometers an hour, and it can get there very fast. For a heavy tank anyway, and then it holds that speed pretty well through corners and turns. Look, I loved this tank the second time around. First time around, as a noob, I played this tank into the ground, sub 50% win rate. It was my first ever Tier 9 heavy tank. It was my first ever Tier 9 tank, in fact, and as such, it got flogged. Coming back to it, having learned how to play tanks properly, I've got to say it's been a joy, and it's that flexibility, that mobility, the gun depression, the absolute joyous gun handling for a heavy tank anyway, that's made this a dream to play. Now, your armor profile isn't incredible, but it is strong. If you can hide your lower glacis, you're going to be very, very hard to ping. You can be penned slightly through the cheeks on either side of the gun mantlet and from the actual cupola up top, the commander's hatch just under the machine gun. But if you can move backwards and forwards quite quickly, you'll find that that becomes a very, very tough shot for the enemy to pull off. And you will get pinged occasionally, but just bear that in mind. I mean, I'm not going to go into great detail on the armor simply because it's a hull-down tank. You've got a strong turret and a weak lower glacis, and that's it. It's really straightforward. You can side scrape in a pinch, but it's not going to be your best point of entry. And what you'll find is angling the tank and then jerking it back and forward, as you'll probably see me do a little bit, will really help you in terms of survivability and getting the most out of the tank. What you want to be doing with this tank in particular is moving from one strong position to the next. So hills and mounds where you can utilize this lovely pointed frontal armor and gun depression. You really want to get to those kind of spots and ridge fight, and it will kill your Russian counterparts. They will have to come over the crest of hills to do so. So the top of Winter Malinovka, for instance, or some of the parts of Middleburg. And I'm going to show you here quickly what I'm talking about. This is Lost Temple and the steps of Lost Temple, which are quite well known by everyone, you'd think. This is where you can actually make a killing. Now, you've got to make sure that your flanks are clear, and they're not here for me. I know there's going to be people over there on the right, so I'm not going to go to the right side of the temple. I'm going to go to the left side of the temple steps and use the hull down area there, rather than going to the right side, which you can see there in front of me, and being broadsided by snipers on the riverbanks over on the right. Now, you can see what I'm doing at all times here is keeping that lower glacis behind cover. And the only time I'm moving out is when I'm moving to a point on purpose. And that lower glacis then can be covered by the next part of hull down joyous. I'm not sure why this is so static at the moment and so glitchy, this video, but Show TV has really let us down this time out. But you can see that what I'm talking about. This is where the tank excels. Getting behind something, you're not showing any part of your tank that's an easy pen. Some can resort to HE or something along those lines. And again, the gun handling stats, you can see how quickly that reticle draws to a close and goes to its smallest point. And that's a big part about why this tank is so successful and so popular with people that play a lot. It's flexible, it's mobile, it can go hull down and just show this turret. It's got good solid alpha. It can snipe a bit if the moment calls for it. And I myself don't bother because of that lovely gun handling that it already has. I run vents, rammer, and a toolbox. Now, you could conceivably run something like a vert stabilizer, and or I think optics would be a bit of a waste, but you could run those and be successful with it. I just run a toolbox because you'll find quite often that you will get hit in the tracks, and you want to basically minimize the amount of time that your tracks take to repair. And a toolbox will cut that down by 25%. With the new, I'm not sure what the new, yeah, that's right, the Tier 6 Crew Skill Masteries, which I now have on these tanks, are now 24% to your repair time, a reduction of 24% to your repair time. Now you can see how quickly they get out. So with the toolbox, that's now 49%. So basically half the time it takes normally to repair a busted track is what it takes you to repair when you're running a toolbox with full Tier 6 crew skill perks. Now you can see how quickly we've got through here. We're angling as we approach the corner. And you can look, lovely little bit of gun handling example here, just firing off into the edge of the into the edge of the wall. That's how you use that wonderful gun handling. I'm angled up again, just putting one through the side of that IS-3. And here we go. We're going to side scrape just a touch. Now you'll note this Object 704. He's after me. I'm side scraping. So what that means is I'm not giving him a very good angle. He's got to hit flat spots. And again, that the gun handling, I'll mention it many times during these videos. The gun handling is one of the better parts of this tank. Now we've got an Object 704 there. You can see he's not really got good shots into me. Not good solid shots anyway. And when they're on a reload like this, you can take advantage with this tank. Go low in the glacis, always a good way, because otherwise, with an object, you can quite often find that you're hitting on that big ass, like with the ISU 152 there, that big ass gun mantlet. So we're 2 tanks down each, and I've noted that the bad guys are coming around the back. Parap, I believe, I said g'day to him at the start. So I know these guys, they're very good players, and I'm going to move around because I want to really put myself in a position. Now Agus is doing very well in the T54, more than holding his own. But look at the way this tank performs. When you get it on an angle like this, now that rubble in front of me is actually creating a hull down situation, and it's giving me the opportunity to put shots into these 2 tier 10s ahead of me, while actually hiding my lower glacis for the most part, if I'm doing it right, and returning fire very successfully. Now, because there's a bush there, it's actually a little bit cheaty. It doesn't show you anything but the outline of the tank, and that's fine for me because I know I can pen them. We're using AP here, please note, all you gold spammers. This tank doesn't need to use a lot of heat. I only carry 4 or 5 heat rounds in it because it's a very strong tank in terms of gun handling and gun stats. So you've got good penetration numbers on your AP, and you've got great penetration numbers on your heat. And you can see again and again, this gun is living up to the hype. Even though it's 0.37 dispersion, which isn't horrible, but it's certainly not pinpoint and laser-like. It gets a lot of love for the money because of that quick aim time. Now you'll find the Conqueror has an even crazier aim time of 1.7 seconds, and that's madness. And that has a brilliant gun. It has just about the best gun running around. There's no doubt. It'd be between that and the Tortoise. Although I'd take the Tortoise 99 times out of 100. But in terms of heavies, yes, certainly. You can see here it's just worked its way around, going hull down, side scraping, using that speed, using that manoeuvrability, getting shots on all and sundry, and there you go. And all we've got left now is good old Parat, and there we go. He's done. And yeah, he didn't get much help. They didn't get much help from their team there, but they did their level best. Agus was a very good platoon mate in that case. He did very well as well. 4-3. Now, I didn't really get many 5k plus games in this tank. I never have. And I think that could well be due to the fact that I very rarely get to play solo these days anyway. And this is a solo game. And I've looked at this map and said, well, they've got 2 mediums. We've got 1 medium, and he's only a T44. Why don't I use the manoeuvrability and the flexibility of this lovely M103 and push out here and help this T44 to achieve his lifelong goal of covering the flank of Copperfield. And that's what we've set out to do. Now, you can see right away we've had a lovely shot on that Indian, that's right, it's pronounced Indian. The Germans have told me in channel it is Indian. And then we're just hanging back here, making sure no one can put shots into our flank, because we do have a very large profile, being a heavy tank with a massive, big, strong turret. We are going to have to watch out for people putting shots into the sides. And it's good training because if you ever go and drive any of the German heavies, like the E100, they've got very large profiles on the side, or the Jagdpanzer E100. You don't want to be, you want to be self-conscious. You want to be making sure that no one can hit you from the left or the right. But we've moved up from one bit of cover to the next, and we're now just patiently waiting in case he turns up. And we're going to fire one off there, get the shot, and back away. Now you can see, as you back away, you're letting that armor profile work to its absolute maximum effect, because it is rounded and it can depress the gun while still covering up that lower glacis with this hillside. It doesn't really give them anything to do. And so they've gone from a 2-to-1 advantage over here in terms of mediums to now being right up against it. And that T32 is all that's left of the original tilt, the Cent, the Indian, and the T32 being the flank attack. And because we've covered their flank, they haven't been able to put fire into our heavies as they move up and push very hard on their top flank. Overall, a really great team effort here. I might add, greatly aided by the fact that the T110E5 on the opposition team decided to take this one off. Firing on the move, not a problem for the M103. There he is up there. And this is what I'm talking about. Very similar. They've got the same chassis. Now you can see that red line there where nothing will pen. And underneath is the dark area. That's very much the same as the M103's frontal armour. And just trying to get a shot there for the video, looking cool, but yeah, the kids didn't like it, didn't go in. Mouse, flat sides, always get a pen. So you can see the versatility there with the tank. We've had a look at the hull down, the mobility, its ability to act almost as a second tier medium. Even though it's only got that 34 kilometre an hour top speed limit, it's got a really, really lovely bit of traverse. Now we're going to have a look at doing it from the other side, which is, there we go, 24k pure awesomeness. G'day to you. Ahoy, my friend. I always say ahoy. I don't know why. It's a bit of an affectation. There we go. We're pushing up, 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 up. That's Ricochet, another one of the Storm boys. And he is going to go up the guts. They've only got the two mediums. Your big issue on Copperfield is the flank, and Rico's telling him there, 140 go flank, because he is obviously worried about us getting flanked and shots coming in to the side here. Now I am in a position here where I'm showing strong armour to both sides and my turret is up. As I angle more towards the left, my right becomes weaker and weaker. But because I haven't been spotted up until now, I wasn't terribly worried about it. Now you can see the gun handling there. Look at that. But because our mediums have pushed up, we've had a little bit of time on that flank. You can see the mediums are pushing up there now, and that's now spotted targets for us. And we can put this tank to work. It has excellent sniping ability for a heavy tank. You can see very easy to get shots, very clear lines of fire, very quick to let the reticle go down, 2.3 second aim time, nothing to scoff at all, and we are just putting good, solid, effective fire in. Rico's doing a great job over there. He's gone over to help the 140. The Cent 7 Mark I wants to get shots in, but we're hip to his moves. And the rest of the team is pushing up hard on the left. Well, that was fast, says 24k pure awesomeness. Yep, certainly was. It wasn't much to do with me. The rest of the team did very well. I'm just putting in what I call cheap money. In other words, I'm basically making my living off the hit points of others. And it's fine. I'm in a good spot to pour fire in. So we do that. And then to finish things off, we pump up awfully quickly, straight down the hill. It's very much, if you're in tier 9 and you're looking at fast, heavy tanks that can be heaviums, as they call them, like the IS-8, look at that shot. Where the hell did that go? I don't know. When you're coming off slopes, sometimes the physics goes absolutely haywire. And you can see that straight angle I took on that E100 really helped in getting that bounce, that auto bounce zone on the right side of the tank there. Angling in this tank, you would expect it to be poor because you don't have flat side armour like an E75 that can auto bounce things, but you've got very thick tracks. And as I mentioned, that lower glacis isn't flat, so its actual point of entry, its weakest point, changes as you turn the tank around. And what that means is you should always angle the armour in this tank and jerk it back and forth and move left to right and forward and backs, because you can actually catch shots on your drive wheels and on your on the side of the tank itself, make it bounce. So back to Fort Despair. Now, as I said, I didn't have many 5K games or anything in this tank for quite some time, and what I did have couldn't be recorded because Show TV didn't work. You'll note these are actually recorded on Air Server, relayed straight back to my PC, and then actually downloaded via OBS to a file output, open broadcast service, that is. Now, that's something I use to stream onto YouTube. So it's been a bit of a palaver getting video for games and reviews. I can't wait for iOS 8.4.1 and iOS 9 to get jailbroken, by the way. It will save me a hell of a lot of time and effort. But again, where scavenging around the place here. Good solid alpha, low roll on that one. But we're just scavenging around, making our money where we can. And you'll note I've got the tank at an angle, facing it towards the enemy at an angle, just waiting to see if something pops up. Be a little bit patient. You're never going to get a shot on an ST1 at that kind of angle. You might on the conch, and we do. Now, right side, in trouble. I can trust my platoon mate there, Rico, to go bat out of hell and tear him up on the left. Rico shows a very, very good T54 driver. It almost seems to be like a prerequisite in Storm. You've got to love driving T54s. I'm not one, which is why I'm not one of the better drivers in the clan. But anyway, we've gone here, and again, you'll note, look where I am. Straight behind that little bit of a wall. Why? Because it hides my lower glacis, lets me put that very, very trollish frontal armour at a very severe angle, use the excellent gun handling, and just put shot after shot into this poor old IS-3. Now I'm just waiting on a reload. I'm not going to pump out unless I've got a shell in the bank. And we missed that one. And we missed it because we're absolutely hopeless, and we drove into the edge and got caught on it. I don't know who fired into the IS-3 there, but it was probably not the best shot they've ever There you go. Now it's 3 on 5. Woohoo! Let's go, team, and let's go. You'd be right not to be too confident, but we have got 2 tier 9s, an IS-8 and a tier 8. They've got 3 tier 9s, but they don't have an M103. Pattern is dangerous, Rico is saying, and that's a fair assessment. If Rico thinks he's a good player, then that's a fair assessment. Watch out for him. So that's what I'm really looking for. But there's the ST, and he's been caught napping. But I miss him because I just really want to take that tank out. I know it's a full shot, and the ST1 was a far more dangerous tank, but the IS will pen me given the right circumstances. It's a very, very strong gun you have on that little Rusky, and if I'm dealing with 2 at once, things become untenable. But thankfully, we don't have to deal with 2 at once. We've just dusted the IS. Now, you'll note, every time I'm taking shots in this game, I'm putting myself into cover. Rico says left. I don't know why, because there's no one on the left. There's only 2 tanks left. And you can see the gun handling again. Look at it, snapshots. And those barrels and everything in front of me. I'm just using them now. I'm keeping the barrels and the like in front of me from the pattern. It doesn't matter, he's dead, so I can turn around and start angling towards the Panther. And he's stock, as Rico rightly says, which means we have absolutely nothing to fear. And we go forward, and we done and dusted. Now we've only got the 1 left, and that is surprisingly not Fort Despair and not Copperfield. It's actually Castilla. No mastery badges in this review, which is a bit disappointing. I played enough games, and I dragged the thing up to 57% win rate from 49 or 50, so it was well worth doing. However, no golds. Kind of suck. This is what I like to do these days in this map, particularly on this side of Castilla. I like to push through if I've got a flexible tank like a 103 or a medium, because the metagame has kind of changed. You tend to get snipers going this middle area here from the other side, and then shooting back to people that go the field. And you push through the middle here, and you can actually quite often catch them unawares in their flanks, get them in a crossfire, and really ruin their afternoon. However, that's not the case here. No one on our team has gone the field, and I am the right flank now, which isn't a terribly comforting thought, but that's what it is. You're going to see the tank with its mobility again. This T54 here, now I've looked at the teams. He is far and away my biggest worry on either of the teams. He's a good player, so I know he's there. He knows I'm there. I am certainly not coming out unless something is optimum for me and suits. And that means I'm going to wait for him to fire. I'm going to wait for someone to put fire in, and then I'm going to push forward and try and bully him. Now, the 103 is a very good tank for this. It's a very solid tank versus medium tanks. They just don't like it very much at all. There you go, we've seen him fire. So, I'm willing to move onwards and upwards and put a shell exactly where I shouldn't have, but it doesn't matter. We've now got help coming down. The T-54's had to back off, and lo and behold, there's a T-43, and he pens me. Good on him. That's bloody good effort by that T-43. He's given me one to go on with. Very brave, if a little bit foolhardy. I've still exposed nothing to this T-54, but I've had to get off the pot because you can see appearing on the radar behind me more reds. However, that's fine. I've held the fort here until the cavalry arrives, and we finish off the 54. Now, the 103 is brilliant like this. It can get to spots like that. It can get there quickly. It's got the mobility and the gun handling to actually do something about it. If I say gun handling one more time, I'll probably have to put money in the swear jar. But it's really good like that. Now, we've looked at the radar. We know where everyone's coming back that way. So we're going to go back that way where the action is. There's an IS-3 up there that probably needs to be taught a lesson, and we're just the Tier 9 tank to teach it to him. Him being a Tier 8 heavy and all. And he's got the BL9, which is a good gun. It can pen us. But it's got big aim time. It's got a high reload. It only gets 4 rounds a minute out of it. And he's certainly not got the armour profile that we have. You can see here, we're just keeping that angle. See how I'm always trying to keep it at a slight angle to that BL9? Look at it. Now, he's taken the track out, and that's fine, but he's got no real gun depression firing over the back of his tank, which is a terrible thing, and I do. And I'm just keeping the front glacis as close to him as possible, more or less face-hugging it and stopping him from actually getting good shots, and then I'm just going to beat him on a reload, which is what this tank can do when it's got 1.5 shots more per minute in terms of rate of fire. We've taken one on the right. Now you see how much damage that was. It's more than likely that was from the IS-8. I think it was for about 400 odd, 420. I'm going to fast forward through all this. There it goes. It wasn't the IS-8 because the IS-8 just got me out. Good stuff. Brilliant work. It must have been the KV-4. Big roll from a KV-4, but there you go. T-44, no problem. So, if you're thinking about this tank, go for it. It's one of the best Tier 9 heavies there is. Lots of really good players do drive these things, and they drive them because it's an easy tank to get shots with. Its gun depression cannot be overstated. Its armour profile is not as strong as you might think when you first look at it on paper, but it's very trollish, and you will bounce a lot of shots if you put it in a position to bounce. If you just drive forward willy-nilly and expose the big soft parts, you'll get done like a dinner. However, if you take your time, put it in a position to be successful, hide that lower glacis, go upper plate only, thank you very much, then you are going to love the M103 to bits. I heartily recommend this tank, and I drive it a lot, not just for the purposes of review, but for actually driving it for enjoyment. Anyway, boys, girls, I'm Bushker on Blitz. Just a few quick notes. If you haven't already, please go and sign up to the Facebook page. It's a great place for me to actually get to grips with you guys and comment and chat and have a little bit more of an informed discussion. As always, if you do want to follow me on Twitter, @Bushker on Blitz is the calling card. Very hard to miss that one. The Patreon thing, I explained it in the last video. Basically, you sponsor videos for as little as $1 per video. No one's under any obligation whatsoever to do that. But if you do it, it makes my life just a touch easier. Anyway, humans, hope you're all well and good. There's going to be an official release soon from channel, as well as the Death Star 183 review should be coming up in the next couple of days. I'm Bushker on Blitz, and I hope you all stay safe on the battlefield.